Hey there, everyone. I'm Tony from the Marathon Mates. Welcome to episode 38 of the Flying Runner podcast. On this episode, we have the very special privilege of speaking with Robert Wang. He's a world marathon majors and Run Disney legend. And of course, he is the founder and admin and all controller of the World Marathon Majors Challenge group on Facebook. We are so excited to be talking with Robert. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the Flying Runner, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the Flying Runner podcast. On this episode, we are very fortunate to be speaking with the one and only Robert Wang. Now, if you haven't heard of Robert, the chances are that you've seen his social media pages on Facebook. In addition to hosting the World Majors Challenge Facebook group and page, Robert is also a regular contributor on Run Disney Facebook pages as well. But not only is Robert a regular contributor, his insight and knowledge and the grace that he has in sharing that knowledge is just incredible. His insight into each and every one of the World Marathon Majors is amazing. He's got a real sense of humor, which I'm sure that we'll appreciate as we go through the course. So thanks, Robert, for joining us. I know it's Saturday night, your time, and there's probably a lot of better things you'd rather be doing on a Saturday night than talking with a couple of running enthusiasts over here in Australia. But welcome so much to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So before we go any deeper, I better introduce the other hosts of the podcast. We've got Tim and Tara from Team Alice Running. Tim and Tara, how's things? And what are we now? When this comes out, you'll be 3 weeks from Boston.
3 weeks from Boston. Yep. We just completed 32 Ks this morning. So
20 miles.
20 miles. Yep. So we're down onto our downward trend or downslope next week, which will be nice. My body's saying that it's ready for that. I don't know, do you guys do park run over in America much, Robert, or is it not really a big thing for you guys?
Sorry, popcorn?
A park run, sorry.
Park runs. Okay. Yeah. It's more of a UK. It's more of a UK. I think it started in the UK.
Correct.
It's popular among subjects of the Queen or the King. The subjects of the King. I don't know how popular it is in Canada, and I don't know how popular it is in New Zealand. I know the Brits love the park run. Irish people in Ireland, it's very popular. I don't know about. I guess in Australia it is too. I don't know about New Zealand and Canada.
Yeah, so New Zealand and Canada. I'm not sure about Canada, but New Zealand it's very big in. But Tim and I have done over 400 park runs now, and it's taken us this long to get Tony to do his first one yesterday. So we were very excited to get him to actually do a park run yesterday. So it's quite exciting for us to have him finally join us after, all this time.
And I have to say it was a fair bit of fun, and thank you to all of the people that came out and joined us. There was 157 at Capella Bar, and we had people travel to run it with the Flying Runner team. So thank you to everyone that showed up. So it was cool.
Excellent.
So 32 today. Does that now mean you go into taper for Boston, or what's next week look like?
Yeah, we'll do a longer run next week. So we'll do a 25K run next week, which is sort of around that 18 miles. And then we'll start to taper down after that. So today's really the peak of the training block, and then we'll do one sort of last long hit out, and then we'll bring it right down for the last 3 weeks coming into Boston. So it's our usual program for a marathon. We know what we're doing. As Tara sort of said, we're starting to feel the fatigue of a long training program, a heavy training program. But, we know that we're in the right position and our body will be able to hold on in Boston and get through the distance. So we're not scared.
No, there's been a lot of hill training involved in this one, and you would understand this, Robert, that it's not something that you can do as a flat run training course. It's definitely needing to be having those hills put into it.
Yes, absolutely.
Excellent.
All righty, so let's move on to the news. And so as we always do, we look around the world of running to bring you news from the sport that we love. And Tim, of course, is our media hound. So, Tim, what's been happening this week?
Well, Tony, Tara, Robert, they've announced the elite field for the upcoming London Marathon which is on the 21st of April. So they've recently announced that over the last week and a half or so. And I can say the women's elite field is amazing. You've got the 4 fastest runners of all time over the marathon distance, all competing in the same race in London. And as we know, London's a fast course in its own right. It used to be where the women's world record was set by Paula Radcliffe for many years. And of course, the fastest of all time, Tajista Safar, who we saw in Berlin when we were there last year, achieved the world record, is heading the field. Behind her is Bridget Kosgei and Ruth Cheptanich. People's last names aren't our strength on this podcast. But yeah, so it's going to be a quick run in London. It'll be interesting to see if they do go the world record. They are assembling some very quick pacemakers to run with the women in London as well. And as we know with the women, they tend to have male pacemakers, so the pacemakers can run the full 42-kilometre distance and keep the pace all the way through the field. So they're setting the pace for that around that world record pace. So it'll be interesting to see how they go in London and whether there's a improvement on the world record time. In the men's field, it's probably not as strong a field that they could have had. It doesn't have the 4th fastest runners of all time in the men's side. But Kenenisa Bakili is heading the field. His fastest time is 2:01:41, which is one of the quickest times of all time. And a couple of other key people in there, Tamarat Tola, Jeffrey Kamwara, are all very quick runners and in the field. And there's also Daniel do Nascimento from Brazil. And I don't know if you remember, but he was the runner, I think, a few years ago in New York that went out really quick and then faded very poorly towards the end of the race. So it'd be interesting to watch him and his performance there. So he has a personal best of 2:04. So it'll be interesting to see how the men go in London. But, we've all done London. We love the course there. Do you have any happy memories of London, Robert?
Yes, very many great memories. One time I was walking to Buckingham Palace area, I think the day before the race, and this woman says, "You're Robert Wang from Facebook," and then she started, and her husband was like right there. So, woman and her husband, and then she started kissing me, and they're like, "Oh my God, it's Robert Wang!" I have all my videos.
Yeah, that's your highlight rather than the marathon. I like that.
Oh, the marathon was great too.
It is a quick, flat course with a 5K. The first 5K has all been downhill. It is a really good course, and we call it the Monopoly course because you see all the Monopoly landmarks on it. So it's a really, really good course. The other news that's come out this week is that they've updated the course for the upcoming Sydney Marathon this year. So they've taken out a lot of the twists and turns, particularly through Centennial Park. The course, as they say, has been designed so that it can handle a much larger field because there are a number of narrow sections in there. The course will still be a hilly course. It's still going to have a lot of the hills as you go out and back from the harbour out and around some of the sections around Sydney. But I think the newer version will be a better course and a better option for the course going forward. And I think there'll be a lot more happier people with it this year. We can't control the weather. I know last year it was extremely hot, and that affected the field and the size of it. But we're all gunning for it. We're hoping that it will become the 7th major, and that people can come to Australia and see some of the sites, but also experience some of the travel and the distances that Australians have to travel to some of the other majors around the world. Again, Robert, I'm put it on you about your thoughts about Sydney becoming a major. I know there's also Cape Town and Chengdu in the mix. What are your thoughts around Sydney?
Well, it's kind of sparked complaining by a lot of American runners. Oh, it's too far. It's too expensive to go to Sydney. Oh, it's not as close as New York or Chicago or Boston. And then I point out, well, what about those Australian runners in our group who have to leave Australia and travel halfway around the world for all 6 majors?
Correct.
So I think Tokyo is only a time zone or 2 away, but still an 8-hour flight. That's the closest one. And then, I mean, so what about them? And then people are getting quiet, like, why couldn't they put it at a more convenient location to me? Why did they put it somewhere so far away? Well, it's going to be far away and near someone, no matter where you put it.
We're on a world.
At some point, it's going to be far away from us. We have 3 majors that are close to us in the States. And then you have London, which is basically across the pond, and Berlin. I mean, Tokyo is really the only really far away one. So if you add Australia, I mean, I've been to Australia twice. I don't think it's the biggest deal, but to be honest, I am very lucky in how much vacation time I can get off a year. And Americans are very vacation time starved. It is very hard for many Americans to get away from work for an extended period of time. And if you're going to enjoy Australia, you should go for at least 2 weeks. I went to Australia and New Zealand for 2 weeks in 1999 and 2 weeks in 2004. And it's a very hard vacation for Americans to do because of their work schedule. Well, in Australia, it's very part of the culture, the work culture, for people to take a lot of time off and go on around the world, or take a year off and go around the world, or be gone. And we don't have that culture in the United States, and that's why people are so apprehensive about Sydney. Like, well, I'm not going to get the time off from work. I'm not going to get a week off. I need a time for the family vacation in the summer. I only can go fly in, run the race, and fly out an hour later. I mean, that's the way a lot of Americans think.
Yeah.
And they do that even with the majors, don't they? Like, I look at your page and people are like, I'm flying in on Sunday or Saturday night, and I'll go out again on Sunday night. And I'm like, okay.
Yes, and it's just part. A lot of it's the work culture in our country, and then the other thing too is people are very anxious about being away from family. They don't want that babysitter or family member caring for their child to do so one more second than necessary. So they're often running to the airport gate. They run to the finish line, keep on running to get to the airport gate to fly home.
Yeah, absolutely. We see that all the time in the group. So let's get on to the good part of the show, shall we? Let's the one that we've been looking forward to. So, Robert, as I said, really exciting that you've been on the show. Now, it's going to be a mix of questions, and a lot of it's just potentially about your running journey, but no doubt we'll hear about all the work that you do within the Facebook community as well. So let's start with a really simple one. When did you first get into running? And what was the catalyst for that? Why was running suddenly part of Robert Wang's life?
And I got to sum that up in like 30 seconds. But basically, I ran cross country in high school, and that's kind of where I got my start. And I got burned out by college. I mean, I think one time I ran a sub 17 minute 5K on a track. And I ran a 36:18. I mean, it's officially 29 because they didn't have chip time back then, but 36:29 10K when I was 17 years old. And then I got burned out doing it, and I didn't run any races for 20 years. Okay. So I didn't, and the next race I ran was a marathon. And the reason that mean, some people don't know this, but my profession is I'm a news reporter. Okay, I write for a news site, write for a newspaper. I've been doing this for more than 20 years, and I was assigned to go cover a marathon orientation meeting in my community. A couple of people in marketing decided to start a race called the Canton Marathon. I live in Canton, Ohio, which is an hour southeast of Cleveland. So I was assigned to go cover that. So it was at one of the conference rooms at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and that's our big tourist site here, is the Pro Football Hall of Fame, not Aussie Rules football, obviously. And so I go there and I'm covering it, and I'm writing, I'm taking notes, and I'm interviewing people, and they're like, it'll be great to run a marathon here, yeah. And then I'm kind of like, and I see the map of the marathon course, and I'm like, man, I should be doing this, and I've been running to try to lose weight and be fit for a couple of years at that point. I mean, I wasn't interested in doing any races at all. But that got me going, and I'll be honest, I was intimidated by the distance. I mean, it seems like nothing now, but back then I'd never run more than 12 miles in my life. And I knew the roads that the course was going to be on. So I ended up signing up. Long story short, I trained in 8 weeks. I don't advise anyone do that. I trained in 8 weeks. There were several disasters that occurred. I twisted my ankle. I had I had chronic calf tightening. How can I say this on a family-friendly show? I had too much garlic at Macaroni Grill the night before, and how can I say it? The next day,
stomach problems.
Affecting the air quality around me. Let's just say that. During the long run, it was a 20-mile training run that was hosted by New Balance. I think New Balance is hoping to sponsor it, and so I barely finished that. I mean, there's so many disasters. I had good runs. I had horrible runs. I didn't know how to. I didn't have the Bondi bands. Back then, the sweat would go down and like Niagara Falls in my eyes. Is why you see the Bondi bands in my vacuum cleaner that I hang on it. I didn't have that. I didn't have a watch. I used what do they call it? It was a shuffle. It had the Nike Plus app on it. It had an accelerometer, and I used that. I didn't have a GPS watch. Okay, I ran in white cotton shirts. Cotton undershirts. Went out running in white cotton undershirts. I was such a noob at this. I didn't carry water. I had a bottle of water in my hand. I'd be running with the water. You know what I mean? One time, I ran out of water, so I got this humongous bottle of water. So I'm trying to run with a humongous bottle. This isn't working out very well. I made almost every single mistake. And then when I ran the race, I went out way too fast for my pace. I was going 9:57 a mile when I really should be going 11 minutes a mile. I crashed and burned. It rained on me. The 4:30 pace group I had left at mile 5 caught up to me at mile 20, ran right by me. I felt like the biggest idiot on the planet at that moment. And then the rest was a death march. I think I was going 16 minutes a mile. There was a guy apparently flirting with this other woman on the course. I was so annoyed. I'm dying here. You're freaking flirting around right by me here. You're asking her number. Okay. And I'm walking up the hill, and it's really, and then this other woman, we looked at each other, right? I'm walking, I'm dying, I'm dead, right? And then we decided I need to beat her. It's I start running full speed, the last, we start running full speed at each other, and so I finished, and then I stumbled onto the guy who was giving out the medals. I literally fell onto him. And I forgot to stop my watch. But yeah, that was my first marathon. That was in 2012. And then I'm like, this is the craziest thing. I'm in so much pain. This hurts so much. I could barely get to the bus. When I came down the steps of my apartment, I was screeching. And my cats were so frightened. They stayed away from the door when I came in. And then that night I was like, I need to do this. I sucked. This was horrible. I need to try again. I need to do better. And then I was stupid. I signed up for another one. 3 months later, like it was going to be in Akron, which is like half hour away, you know, because I was supposed to be the only time I was going to do it and be done with it. I was like, no, I did so horrible. I need to try again. And then I signed up for a third one. That was 3 weeks later after that in Columbus, Ohio. Okay. And then I signed up for one in Miami in January. And then I signed up for one in Cleveland. Okay. For following May. Then Chicago Marathon. And then it never ends. Disney Marathon. That was good. It was like $497 to do the first inaugural Dopey Challenge. The 5K on Thursday, 10K on Friday, half marathon Saturday, marathon Sunday. It's like, man, that's a lot. That's a lot. How much is that? It was $527 with the active.com fees. No, that is so expensive. Like I paid $80 for the first marathon, but I'm only going to do it once, right? I'm only doing it once. I'm going to do it once. So I signed up for that. And just a segue here, you're gonna ask about the Facebook group. How did I get in? Okay, I didn't do much on Facebook back then. I posted about my runs, and almost no one cared about it. Like this is my face. I had Facebook friends. I had like maybe a few hundred Facebook friends. Almost no number of runners. They didn't care. I'd be like, I did 5 miles today at a 9:35 a mile pace, and like, great for you. Good. No, I don't really care, you know. So I was posting all this stuff, and then I heard about Facebook groups. I think like a colleague of mine had been writing about a Facebook group. So I started like searching Facebook groups. Okay, like running, marathon. I think, oh, that's funny. I think I ended up I joined a British marathon group by mistake. I think I just joined. I was like, and I didn't know it was in the UK. And I was like, wait a second, where are you guys? And it was like, oh, we're in the UK. I was like, oh, I'm in Ohio. Oh, I joined the wrong group. I mean, what? And so eventually I joined the Dopey. I found the Dopey Challenge. So I joined the Dopey Challenge, you know, and that's how I got into Facebook, was through that group, because the group was filled with a lot of people with different quirky personalities. And I was a quirky personality, and I would post pictures of myself. Like, I'm going to go out, and this was newbie Robert Wang, okay? I'm going out for a run tonight. I'm going to go out for a run. I'm doing a 20-mile treadmill run. You know what I mean? Like, so this was 2013, okay? So at this point, I've done 6 marathons. I'd run a sub 320 at Chicago after running a 4:49:48 in 2012. Somehow I managed to get that down to under 320 at Chicago Marathon. That was my first major. And I know I just skipped right over that. And that's, but I didn't get into Facebook until after I did the Chicago Marathon. Okay. The first one. And I didn't know anyone in Chicago at all. I didn't know any of the other runners. I was trying to chat with people and make friends. And that just went pretty disastrously. Like, no one really had any interest in being my friend. Like, you know, and the funny one I remember is this guy from Germany. The day after the race, I asked, how'd you do? I met him at the hotel. It's like, yeah, I ran the race yesterday. It's like, how did you do? Oh, it was so horrible. I went too fast, and then I died. And then like, I was going so much slower, and I was in pain. And I was like, well, what was your time? It's like, 2:45. He was like ashamed of himself, like he was beating up on himself for like running a I guess he tried to have a 2:35 or something. You know, I was like, oh my gosh, a 2:45. Yeah. But, you know, just stuff like that. Like, I did meet one woman who's still a Facebook friend. Okay. But that weekend dinner, but in any case, but yeah, one thing I learned, I did pasta dinners that first year, is no one wants to chat with you during the pasta dinner. They're so nervous about the race. Yeah. They want to eat and leave and go back to the room at 7 p.m. and go to sleep. And they don't have no interest in chatting with you at all. So that's what I learned really quick. But anyway, so I got into Facebook, and it was and I know I'm chronologically going all over the place here. Okay. But like, I would post these pictures of me with my headlamp and my safety vest, and I'm going out for a night run tonight, guys. I'm going out for run 5 miles. I thought it was so cool. Okay. And even though I was a real dork, and people thought it was kind of I guess annoying and funny at the same time. Like I was talking about trying to qualify for Boston at Disney, which is what, you know, most people don't talk about doing. Because I was like, I needed a 3:15 at that point. I just broke in 3:20. It's like, okay, can I do that? And so one time, I think like after I'd been in the group, like, I don't know, 4 weeks, and I posted all kinds of stuff, you know, about people were like, Robert Wang, you're a celebrity. We want to meet you in the starting crowd. You're like a celebrity now, right? And I was like, that was a joke. And people wanted to make like a team like RW Robert Wang shirts, I was like, this is getting out of control here. And so when I get to we had a meetup at the Disney Expo, and I was really late. You know the way I am. I'm really late. I was coming from Universal. I tried to sneak on a few more rides, and I get to ESPN where they're having the Disney World Expo. And I go to the expo. There was like a pavilion we were supposed to meet in. I was like 2 hours late or something. So I get there, I kept on getting calls from this woman who's trying to get me there. Like, Robert Wang, where are you? Like, I don't know how she got my number, but anyway. So I get there, and everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, it's him! It's him!" Applauding, and I'm like, "What the hell?" This is the first time they've ever seen me in person ever. So like, we've been talking on Facebook for like 2 months at that point, and people were freaked out about Dopey because no one had ever done Dopey before, and I think that added to the angst. Anyway, I could go on and on. I could write a book about that whole weekend. A lot of crazy things happened, but I met all kinds of interesting personalities. I still know them to this day, and so that was 10 years. That was 10 years 2 months ago. But anyway, what you want to know, I think you want to focus is on the majors, because that's what you're focused on. How did I get with them? Well, I mean, obviously Chicago was my first major, and then I got into I want to get into Boston because people say that's the cool thing to do, and it's hard, so that's what I want to do. Okay, so I got a little fixated on qualifying for Boston. A Disney World Marathon did not work out. I lost. I totally bonked around, I don't know, I think mile 18. It was like the ESPN Center, that track. That's what I bonked. And I finished in 3:22:11. Okay, I mean, not bad, but not 3:15. So I was like, okay. So I trained. I opted to try to do it again at the inaugural Pro Football Hall of Fame marathon in Canton, Ohio, on April 28th, 2014. By the way, that Canton marathon went defunct because money ended up being diverted or missing, and they had to shut down. There was there was lawsuits, litigation, vendors not paid, not good stuff. Yeah. So, but in any case, Pro Football Hall of Fame marathon was started by another runner in the community, so I went for that, and I ran a 3:12:40. I think it was a 3:12:40. So it was a minus 220 for Boston, and so let make a long story short. I mean, because this could be a really long story. Is I got into Boston. I did do 2015 Boston. I also qualified a Marine Corps marathon for 2016 Boston. I've never qualified for Boston more than once in a qualifying period ever in my life. I've only run 1 BQ or 0 BQs. Very binary, 0 or 1. Okay, so how did I get into the World Marathon? Okay, so I'd always wanted to do the majors, even before I even knew they were part of a series, and I knew the elites did them as a series. Back then, the focus was on the elites, doing Boston and doing Berlin, and it was kind of on the periphery of my consciousness. At some point, I would have done them, whether there was a series or a 6-star medal or not. So I started going for the other majors, like London. I entered in 2014. Okay, the ballot. And the reason why I did is there was a British woman named there was a British woman in the Dopey Challenge group, right? And she led a group of British women who ran, known as the Minis. They basically ran with Minnie Mouse ears and bras. And Susan Thornton, yes, Sue Thornton, yes. Right? Oh, you know Sue Thornton?
We know of her.
Okay. Yes, yep. We've seen her at the Dopey Challenge before, so yep.
So, but anyway, so she knew me. I hadn't met her in person yet, but like on Facebook, she was like, "Oh, you should do the London Marathon." And you probably remember back then, it was the type of deal that would open at midnight, right? Yep. And it would keep on going until it's 125,000 people had entered the ballot, and then it would shut down right at that moment. And that typically would last about, I don't know, like 8-9 hours, and it would just shut down. It's not the way it is today, where it's open like till Friday, no matter what. Now you have 500,000 people who are registering.
Right.
And so back then, I naively thought I had a chance of getting in. Okay, I had no idea what the odds were. I was like, oh, this would be cool to run the London Marathon. Maybe I have a chance of getting in. Of course, I never really did, but that's another story. So I entered London. I always want, because I lived in London for a few months in 1994 as part of a work student program. So I wanted to do London, and then Berlin. I entered that lottery. So I wanted to do that. I've been to Berlin when I was younger a couple times. And I didn't get into Berlin. I didn't get into London. So then the next couple years I was focused on I did Boston twice, Chicago twice, and I kind of hit up. I'm trying to think, articulate. Okay, the reason why I started the group was I think I did some kind of Google search. And I found out that there was a 6-star medal. I didn't find this out until December 2016. It had been unveiled at the Tokyo Marathon in February 2016, which is the Tokyo Marathon used to be the last Sunday of February, before the first Sunday of March. So they unveiled. I didn't know about this for months. Okay, and then somehow I found an article about it, and I was like, man, this is so cool. If you do all these majors, you get this medal. And I want to do them anyway. And I think, what facilitated it was Berlin Marathon. I didn't get into the Berlin. I didn't get in 2015 for the lottery, and I didn't get in 2016. But I found out about this. Actually, I'd known about it for a while. They'd had it the year before. The RTL charity first come, first served registration, where there was 1,000 dibs, and you had to get on. And a friend of mine, I knew her through the Boston group. She had figured out a way to get into the website, get past the online queue. She figured that out. She found the links to do that, and she sent it to me, and I forgot about it. So it's 3 a.m. our time. Okay, it was 9 a.m. in Berlin. It was probably more civilized time in Australia, and it's 3 a.m. here. So I'm like, so I'm trying to get in. There's this online queue. It kind of go as a bar, and it's going like this. And I get stuck, and I'm like, what the hell? And I was panicking. I was like, this is going to have fun. And then my friend of mine messaged me, how are you doing, Robert? How's everything going? It's like, I'm stuck here. And she's like, remember that link I sent you? Yes. Oh, I clicked on the thing. I get past the online queue. I'm able to register in time, and it sells out in 20 minutes. And then it was shortly after that. And at that point, this was going to be major number 3. Okay. And I'm thinking, man, it would be nice. I had started all kinds of Facebook groups over the last couple years. Some did well and some did not. Some went great and then they went dormant, like a gold mine, like a gold rush town, basically. So I was used to starting. The reason why I started so many groups is because I got in trouble in the groups that I was in. Okay, I would join the groups. I would get so excited. I would post stuff like pretty much nonstop. It would drive people nuts. Like, what is this all about Robert Wang? Like, what's going on? And I would get a message from the admin saying, hey, Robert, can you cut down the number of posts that you're making? And then it got to the point where I was being suspended. I was being quoted in some cases. I was being I was being too overly obsessed and enthusiastic. And I was having my stuff deleted or whatever, or people saying this is like there were a decent number of people who liked it, but there were people who hated it too. Like, why is this Robert Wang guy getting all the attention? So they didn't like that, and I can understand. So I still think, I want to make my own groups now. I mean, like that way no one can kick me out. I mean, like even today, I get in trouble with other groups. I even today, if I post something or if I violate some unwritten rule that I'm not aware of, and there's many unwritten rules, I'll get a message from the admin. Hey, Robert, what are you up to with that post you just put up? It's like, oh, some information. And he's like, well, that's not really the way we do things here. You know what I mean? I still get those messages. So I kind of almost all my content I kind of put up on my groups, like 90%, 8% of the time, to avoid getting into trouble, because I get into trouble still. So in any case, so I started the World Marathon Majors Challenger, just like all these other groups, right? And there was no indication it was going to become the group it is today. Okay. And it wasn't my intention. If it had gone up to, I don't know, 500, couple thousand people and stayed there, I would have been good with that. Like, it was just a way for me to share what I knew with people, and more importantly, find out what other people had to share with me. And there was various tips and tricks I'd heard of. But I was maybe we can do meetups, like maybe we can do discussions. I just always felt it was better for me to be in a group so we can crowdsource our information and pull it together. Basically, that's the whole reason. And it just grew and grew and grew. Okay. I think I posted how many people it's gone over. I mean, now it's at 22,100. It's about 22,100 now. Now it's not the most viral group anymore. The rate of growth has dropped because I am more selective who I admit. They have to be a runner normally. Usually I want a track record. If they don't have a track record, I want them to explain, why do you want to do this if you haven't run a marathon before or a half marathon before. So I am a little more selective. There is a principle of diminishing returns at some point. There's only the marathoning community, people interested in doing majors is only so big, but it still grows. It still keeps adding people. I just have a certain philosophy. I think that's generally worked. Like, number one, I don't admit to know everything. Okay. There's a lot I don't know. I make mistakes. But when I make them and it's clear I made them, I admit them. Okay. I try to keep my ego in check to some degree, but who knows? I'll let other people judge that. I have an ego like everyone else. And also much of life is just ridiculous to me. I mean, I'll be honest, like, I've had a lot of setbacks in life, like many other people have had. I've had difficult times in my life, and the humor, that's just a way to deal with it. See the absurdity in situations. I also have a mind that tends to link I think I get it from my mother. One thing like that is sort of related to this other thing, and that can relate, and I see those connections more perhaps faster than other people can, and that might lead, but then it ends up being funny. I do try to see the absurdity in situations. I try not to take things too seriously. And I try to be grateful. I'm not always, but I try. That's kind of the philosophy. And then some people are like, Robert, you should be monetizing this. You should be trying to make money off this. And at some point, that is something I like want to do. That hasn't been a priority, even though, I'm poor. I mean, because my resources are limited, I've got to try to find out strategies to maximize my resources so I can do the races that I want to do. Yeah. I mean, I'm not the type of guy who can be like, okay, well, I'm going to defer New York and then pay the entry fee twice. For me, it's just hard for me to do that. Yeah. I know there's a lot of people who can afford it. They've been very fortunate in their lives. They've done well in their careers. They can afford to do that. I can't, I've never flown first class in my life. And, not that I have a great desire to do that, but I just haven't. I try to find, I go the budget path, when I can.
And we do notice that on your page as well. People are like, oh, are you going to be in London, or are you going to be in Berlin, or why aren't you at this place? And it's like, well, you've just explained exactly why you're not going to be in those places, because
can't afford to be everywhere.
Money's one part of it, but it's also I don't want to do these races every single year. I mean, I know some people they do go to every major. They just do. It's an important part of their identity, and it's their it's their social outlet for some of them, and that's fine. I mean, it's just not just money, but it's also there's other races to do too besides the majors. Right. I love the majors, but I don't want to do them every year. It's like you have a great friend, but you don't want to see them every day. I mean,
so how many marathons in total have you done then? Obviously you've done the majors, but how many in total have you done since you started?
I've done roughly 55. Wow. But 10 of those are Walt Disney World marathons, and roughly about 18 of those are the majors. So,
and what about the Run Disney ones?
Well, just marathons. There's only one. There's obviously Walt Disney.
Oh yeah, but like
I've done at least 9 of those if you don't include the virtual in 2021. So I've done 9. Yeah, so most of my marathons have been the majors and Disney.
Yep.
And out of all those, what would be your favorite event that you've done so far? I know it's hard because they're all different.
It's like asking which cat is my favorite, which but yeah, the one I want to do, I'll just give you an easy answer. The one I want to do every year is the Boston Marathon, because, and it's hard to articulate why, but yes, there is it did start out as a accomplishment thing. Oh yeah, if I run a fast time, I get in. That's so cool, but it's kind of evolved beyond that. It's more intimate. It's probably because it's the smallest major of all of them. It's a convention. It's a little bit of a family reunion. And so that's the one I want to do every year if I have to choose any of them. The others, I don't need to do them every year. Though I am an anniversary snob. So I'm doing Berlin, the 50th Berlin in September. I did the 50th New York. I did and I want to do the 50th Chicago, and that's in a few years.
Yeah, I've got to say Boston, and I've got my Boston jacket on from last year, is just one of those races, isn't it? They're just the sense that you get that week of the Boston Marathon. You've got the Coakley Square stuff that's happening. You've got the pop-ups. The expo's a bit ordinary in my mind anyway, but there's just a sense around that marathon. You're very grateful to be able to run it. There's also some esteem, obviously, around it. There's probably the one thing that I notice in relation to Boston, there's a group of runners who are just so grateful and proud to be running Boston. And there's another group of runners that don't want anyone else to run Boston except for them and those people that have qualified. So you get...
boy.
It's such an amazing week. And I love Boston. And Tim might have made mention, I'm sure I've met you, and I'm sure I met you last year at Boston. And when you were talking about that story of just talking to someone, that's exactly it. I was in a line somewhere, and there was someone that looked a little bit like Robert Wang talking to me, and I was too nervous or too anxious about the race to be sort of focused on anything else. But let's just get out of here. So, but anyway, yeah, I agree with you about Boston. Boston is such an amazing week. Don't think I'd run the race again because of the troubles that I had in it, but I can certainly understand why that's part of what you want to do every year.
And just to make a quick note, Copley Square is closed for this 2024 Boston Marathon weekend because of construction. It will not reopen until December. So the Fan Fest events will be taking place at Boston City Hall, which is about a couple miles away. So I hope a lot of your listeners, viewers, note that when they go to Boston, that there's going to be a construction wall all around Copley Square when you get there, unfortunately. And when you finish, not the best photo backdrop after the finish.
That's where we're staying too.
Oh, is it? No.
Yeah, that's where we stay as well in Copley Place. So yeah.
So you're going to have to go around a little bit. You won't be able to walk through the Copley Square like you could. You will again next year, but not this year. And the reason why I think Boston is so special, one major reason is the whole area. The culture has evolved to embrace the event. It goes back to 1897. Everyone remembers when they were a little kid who lives there, their parents taking them to watch the race, and their parents taking them to watch the race. It's multi-generational. There's, it's a huge nostalgia factor. The race means a lot to the people of that area. And they're an amazing host, and that's why I want to come back every year. And I can't think of any other community that really has that. Maybe London is kind of developing that, with its very supportive charity community. but I mean, it's just so established in Boston. It's Patriots Day. It's you know, which is the anniversary of the battle that started the Revolutionary War. It's the legends of the race, all these figures, and the longevity, and also the charities become a major part of the race, and which a lot of time qualifiers do not appreciate. But everyone knows someone running for charity, which is similar to London's situation. So it's just a huge emotional connection between the community and the race, and you're just not going to get that with most marathons in other places.
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, sorry, Tony.
Yeah, I was just about to say that the jackets is always one of the biggest topics in your group.
Well, that is a thinner jacket you're wearing than what they used to have before. They used to have
it's not blue.
Embroidery, but to be fair, people are kind of spoiled. The thing with the celebration jacket, that's just a recent thing. That's like, I don't know. I think mid 2000s. That's when it became elaborate, and now they're simplifying it again. And it used to be no jacket. There used to be no medal for many of the runners. So, but I'm thinking it's a cost saving. It's a supply chain cost saving. I mean, it's my speculation. I have no inside information. But that's what I think it probably is. That's why they redesigned it. And yeah, I got to admit, I like the older jackets better, but that's obviously not our decision. We have to decide whether we buy it or not.
Yeah.
So, we really love the information we get on the Facebook page, and the amount of insight and sort of knowledge you post and others post. How much time do you spend each week sort of researching and gaining insight?
Well, it's really funny. I always ask people, like, how much did you pay to go to do the majors, right? People are like, I don't want to say. Well, it's the same thing with me and the amount of time I put in. I don't want to think about the amount of time I put into it. It's probably way too much. There's probably other things I'm neglecting, like the mess behind me, but there's other things I'm neglecting because of the group. But I'll be honest, it's a joy to do it. It's a little bit of a procrastination tool for me. I've got to do normal work like other people do. I gotta do other chores like other people do, and I often don't want to do it at that time. And I'm like, okay, well, let me do something for the group because I enjoy that, because I don't feel like mopping the floor right now. Okay, I don't feel like scooping the cat litter box right now. Thanks. So I'll be honest with you that the group is really one big procrastination tool for me.
We're very grateful for it. So we're not complaining that you're procrastinating in any way, shape, or form, because there's stuff that you're not.
You're my boss is. I mean, it does help that I work from home now too. I've been working from home for 4 years because of COVID. Yeah, I mean, I just like to share what I can. But look, I get a lot from other people. And a lot of people like, Robert Wang, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this for free? And I got to admit, part of it is because I'm an idiot. Okay, I should be, I should be doing something to monetize, whatever that is. I don't even really know how to monetize. But part of it is I get a lot from other people. It's not like I get nothing. Like I'll give you examples. Like one time, someone anonymously reimbursed my Tokyo Marathon charity donation. They covered $1,000 the amount anonymously.
Wow.
Sent it to me on PayPal. I've been invited for. I mean, this is just in general on Facebook. I've been invited to a Disney VIP tour that costs thousands of dollars. I didn't have to pay anything. Thank you very much. I've gotten all kinds of things over the years. So it's not like I get zero or nothing. I mean, I've had people invite me, like take me out to dinner. I've had people take me to a theater show once, like at the old Vic in London. So just to be fair, I mean, people have been very generous to me, and because of their generosity, I raised $11,000 for Last Call Foundation, which is an organization that provides funding for fire departments to get better safety equipment. It's my first time being a charity runner, so I did. So because of their generosity, I made the $11,000 goal, or actually because they really did it, less me, in 37 days. So I'm very, very grateful for that. But but yeah, in terms of the time, it's probably too much, and it's not the only group that I have. I have other groups too. Like, I have my ultimate dopey challenge group, and I focus on that usually in January during Disney time. Okay. I also have one for Disneyland. I have Disneyland Races Homecoming group. I have several groups. I started a new one yesterday called Project Cease, the art of beating the Boston Cutoff. And this group is for people who, they run around 6 hours marathon, and they're on the bubble of beating the cutoff deadline, which is 6 hours after the last person starts the Boston Marathon. If you're 1 second late, you're not in the official result. You'll get a medal, but you're not in the result, and it doesn't count for a star.
So one of the funniest things I've seen from you, Robert, and I know you do this quite often at Dopey, you're usually aiming to be one of the last runners over the finish line. And I remember a video you posted a couple of years ago on the Dopey Challenge where you were, I think, the last or the second last person. It was a competition between you and one other guy in the end there. It was the most hilarious video ever, watching you try to beat the balloon ladies but become last runner over the line. It was hilarious.
Okay, well, I'm going to clear some things up. I never try to be the last over the line because I don't want to get the confetti. It's considered bad form to go for the confetti intentionally. Okay, so I never do that. Okay, but I'm talking about net time. We're talking about the worst time because I start in the first corral, and then like my I think 2018. My marathon time was 8 hours and 19 minutes.
How many rides did you go on?
What?
How many rides did you go on that time?
I think 8. I think
8 rides.
Yeah. Oh, no. I take that back. It wasn't 8 rides. It was it was 3. It was 3 rides. I'm sorry. It was 8 rides in 2016. But okay. But yeah, what I was not the one who originated doing rides, and a lot of your listeners and viewers are like, what the hell is he talking about? Okay, and I mean, I don't go out and advertise this, but basically, what that means is, you subtly you take a little bit, you decide to take a break. Okay, you decide to maybe tie your shoe or go to the bathroom, and then somehow you end up on Tower of Terror. You just happen to be there, or Expedition Everest. Or Dinosaur. You just have to you decide to explore a little bit and ended up on Dinosaur, okay? Or this year Kilimanjaro Safari, okay?
Now that's actually a long way off course because Tim and I have done the Dopey Challenge, so those rides are actually a long way off course. Now we waited for Everest to open, and I was an hour too early, so I'm like, well, I'm not waiting around for an hour to ride a ride. So you've really gone out of your way in the parks to do those rides.
They're open. How do they know? They're open. I go when they're open. And I have a ticket too. I bought a pass. So, but basically, you leave the court. You leave the court, and then you come back to generally where you left it, and then you continue. You still go the distance you're supposed to go, and the goal is to do these rides before your time is up in the race.
Yep. Before the balloon ladies.
I mean, there's no point unless you're going to finish and get the medal. So,
and you've got to go through Epcot and Mexico and get your margarita to finish with as well.
I've only done that once. Now the line is so long that I'm not sure if I do it again. Okay. Yep. I did that at a time when the sweepers were well behind the balloon ladies. They don't do that anymore. They're much stricter about that now. But
rock and roller, the rock and roller coaster's out now as well, isn't it? So you can't use that as one of the ones. Yeah.
Maybe next. Well, it might be back by next year. And I did do that one. This year I did Everest, Dinosaur, Kilimanjaro Safari, Cali Rapids, Triceratop Spin. What was the next one I did? I did Rock and Roller Coaster, Slinky Dog, and I did Ratatouille and Frozen this year.
Jeez, you got onto Slinky Dog. That's always got a long line for Slinky Dog. You did well.
Do you have a fast pass?
Well, I'm not allowed to. I'm not allowed to really. I really shouldn't say more.
No. Keep it a secret because we'll do it next time we're over.
That's amazing. I hadn't even considered. I've never run Disney, and if ever we do, obviously there is now a tradition that you've got to do some rides. So I'll make sure that that's in the back of my mind. Now, Robert, I love a good expo, and I've sort of rated the expos from 1 to 6, so to speak, in my own mind. But what has been your favourite race expo of the majors? And which one would you go, yeah, I may not do that one again? So what was your favorite expo and your worst?
Let me turn the question around to you in the sense that the question should really be, what was your favorite expo before the pandemic, and what's your favorite expo since the pandemic? Because I suspect the expo business model has fundamentally changed. Like you talked about Boston Expo, you're not being that impressed. But that's because you were looking at it post-COVID. You should have seen Boston Expo before COVID, and was much more elaborate, much more extensive, a lot more vendors, a lot more excitement than there is today. But the business model has just changed so much. But in terms of, okay, if I had to choose, let me think. If I had to choose one, I think it would be a close tie between Boston and New York. But Chicago, I mean, it's hard. They were all good before COVID. It was hard to choose. Like Boston had a good one, Chicago had a good one, New York had a good one, even London had a good one. Berlin was okay. Berlin was okay. Tokyo, well, it's not. I went to 2019. It was in a tent, so that didn't help. It was okay too. And so if you look at after COVID, I'm guessing maybe New York. But I went to 21 though when we were knee deep in COVID, so that's not really a good representation. I went to Chicago 22. That's not what it used to be. There's a lot fewer vendors. London 21, that also was a shadow of what it used to be. It's not really fair because I haven't seen some of these, since we're more recovered from the pandemic. Okay. Well, if you're gonna go by total experience, okay, Boston's the best. If you look at their speaker series, they have the best speaker series of any major. Okay, New York is second, but but Boston is the best. And you can't possibly attend everything. And the people who are listening to this or watching this, who are doing their first Boston, I'm going to tell you, you cannot do everything. You can't. You cannot. You're going to try, and there's going to be some amazing thing you're going to miss. You're going to miss like Kipchoge at the Nike event, or Shalane Flanagan doing a shakeout run. You're going to miss something amazing, and all. You can't do it all. It's impossible. So don't beat yourself up if you can't.
So Tim and I are obviously heading over in about 4 weeks' time to do the Boston Marathon. I looked at a post that you put up recently about people that don't qualify. Tim may be able to qualify. There's not a chance that I will ever qualify for Boston. So we've actually got a tour group here in Australia that we're going through, which we're very, very fortunate to be able to do. But with that, what are your recommendations for us first-time people to Boston? What do you recommend is the number one thing that we have to do at the expo and afterwards and on course because I don't want to be a fast runner. I want to take photos and have fun. So yeah.
Okay, all right. When are you getting there? Which day?
Friday.
Okay, when are you leaving?
The following Saturday after the marathon.
Okay. So you're doing the 1 week tourist thing. Okay. You're not doing, I almost always land on Friday and I leave on Tuesday. One year I left on Wednesday. Okay. I always make it a full weekend. I don't do the fly in Sunday, leave Monday thing that some people do. Okay. Yep. All right. So I would reserve any tourists. I would for you. Okay. And it makes sense. You're from Australia. You're giving the whole week. I would focus on Boston Marathon related stuff the first 4 days you're there. Okay. And you're going to have to be dealing with jet lag. That's going to suck. And I've been to Sydney or you're in Brisbane, right? I've been to Brisbane too. And my jet lag was horrible. And one time I ended up sleeping in front of someone's door and they weren't home yet. And I was waiting for them. I fell asleep. And this was in Sydney in 1999. And I'm sleeping there and he got home. He found me sleeping by his door, but that's another story. Anyway, but you're going to be, okay. So focus on race stuff. This is going to suck. I mean, there's no way to get around this. It's going to suck, but Okay, when you get there Friday, what time do you get there Friday?
7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, you get there in the morning. All right, so do everything you can to stay up until at least 8 or 9 o'clock. Okay.
Correct.
Do what you can. What's going to happen is you're going to like fall asleep. I mean, you've been through this before. You guys probably travel.
We know what we're doing. Yep.
You know, I mean, this is more for people who are listening. Okay, but you're going to fall asleep at 7 or 8, right, or 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, and you're going to wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning. You'll be like, what the hell? You know, I can't go back to sleep. And unfortunately, Boston is not a great place. It's not like Tokyo where you just go out and have ramen noodles. Like Boston is not the best place to go out at 2 in the morning. It's not. Okay, you're gonna be so. So in any case, so focus on race-related stuff the first 4 days. Don't worry about any tourist stuff or tours or anything like that. Save that for after you get there. Okay, or after the race is over. You know, when we're into Tuesday, then go into tourist mode. Do not do tourist stuff until afterwards. Okay. And what I would recommend is, is what's going to happen is the BAAs, they're going to issue a schedule for their speakers for the expo and for the Fan Fest, which is now at City Hall, and now is a little more inconvenient to get to for some people. Okay. And you're going to have to pick what you want to do. And here's the thing. Chances are 40% of what you plan to do, you won't do. There's just not going to be enough time to do it. You know, you're going to run into some friends from us. You're going to chat. You're going to end up missing stuff. This is the way it is. Okay. So what you're going to want to know where to eat. I mean, I generally don't plan my eating in Boston very well. What I normally do is if it doesn't work out for me to, if someone doesn't invite me to something, I'll go to Wagamama's for like lunch or dinner, and then I'll eat breakfast. That's normally what happens now. Wagamama's is an Asian fusion restaurant. It's a chain that's international, but they have a couple locations in Boston. Okay. Yep. And they have one right by the Boston Marathon Expo at the Prudential Center. So Thornton's is on Huntington Avenue. It's a great affordable breakfast place. I highly recommend it. They're not paying me to say that. Okay. But I do recommend them to try it. It's very basic American. If you want to do basic American, that's basic American, and it does the job. Just don't get the strawberries for the pancakes, though. Another thing you might want to consider doing is people watch at the Copley Fairmont, because you're going to be staying near there, like a couple blocks away. Just go in the lobby to sit down for, I don't know, half an hour. You're probably going to see some famous runners walk right by you.
Yeah.
Like I've been there. I've seen Shalane Flanagan there. I've seen Dakota Lindworm last year, she made the U.S. Olympic team for the marathon. I've seen I can't think of any Australians I've seen. And quick digression, I was in Melbourne in 2004 when the Olympic team was touring Australia, and they were like, you know, they were greeting people and high-fiving people. But anyway, that's another story. So in any case, so go there and sit down, you know, try the banana pancakes at the restaurant, I think it's called the Long Bar or something. It's like $25 expensive, but it's really good. So that's one thing you could do. Another thing is look at the schedule, go to Eventbrite, type in Boston Marathon to try to find out about the celebrity appearances. Like there's always a bunch of celebrities, you know, like elites for the last couple generations. Who's that Australian guy who won the Boston Marathon in the 80s? What's his name?
Robert
De Castella.
He often shows up for the weekend. CV's in town. It's a good. It'll be. Do you know him? Do you talk?
Yeah. He's been on our podcast already.
Oh, okay. So you know him. Okay, so he'll be in town. Maybe he can like refer you to something or something like that. So generally, like, okay, you want the BAA schedule. Okay, they usually have stuff going on. You'll find some stuff on Eventbrite. This Tracksmith has stuff going on at their store. Heartbreak Hill Running Club. Last year they had Galen Rupp at their store. I didn't go to that one. There's all kinds of stuff going on. Most of it, not all of it, is advertised on Eventbrite. And like and I'm trying to think, is anything else that you want to do? Everyone's going to be having a shakeout run. Everyone, you know. I mean, I bet Kentucky Fried Chicken will be having a shakeout run. I bet will be having a shakeout run. Everyone will be having a shakeout run. Everyone.
That's sponsored by Kentucky Fried Chicken.
That's I'm kidding about that. I'm kidding. That'd be funny if that was true. But Abbott will be having a shakeout run.
Yep.
They usually have one for their 6-star finishers. They started doing this a year or so ago. Tracksmith will have one, and Brooks will have one. Usually what happens, they'll have a celebrity show up, and then the celebrity might run a little bit and disappear. That almost always happens, or you know what I mean, or take off and leave you behind in the shakeout run. So I'm trying to think what else is going. There's and I'll have more information about this in the group as we get closer. See what happens is a lot of this just pops up like the last week or so. Like you don't find out about it until then.
So Tim and I were lucky enough. We got an entry in for the 5K.
On the Saturday.
And we actually woke up at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning here in Brisbane to sign up for it because we were told that it was going to sell out very, very quickly. Luckily we did, because that sold out super quick this year. So
it does sell out about an hour now. It used to sell out maybe a day or 2 days, but now it's about an hour. I did not sign up. You weren't competing with me.
It's the best T-shirt for the 5K too. It's the best. I wear it everywhere. And just on shakeout runs, I think Kafusi did one last year, and seriously, it was the biggest shake-up run I've ever seen. We were just in what's the major street there in Boylston?
Boylston, yep.
Yeah.
Boylston.
And on the next one down was the Kafusi shakeout run, and basically this is the 2 days before, and there were still cars on the street, but cars had to stop because there were just so many people. So shakeout runs in Boston are huge. So you'll love it, guys.
Yeah, there's gonna be hundreds. I'm guessing you're talking about Newbury Street. That's the next street over from Boston. There's a lot of events going on there. Another thing you might want to look into, there's certainly going to be Australian runners who are going to have meetups themselves. What a lot of runners do is they'll set one up for their own community. Like the UK runners will have a lot of UK runners will have their own a Facebook group. They usually have each of them will often have a meetup. The Boston Buddies, Boston Training Group, they have like 200 people at their shakeout run. So, but when I organize a shakeout run, I get 10 people, but they get 200. And I call them the Star Destroyer of shakeout runs. Is Boston Buddies shakeout run? They meet in Boston Common. They take up like a tenth of the park. That whole area is all Boston Buddies. Yeah.
Jeez.
And then I do it's like me and my 10 people. Like, oh yeah,
well, if you're there this year, Robert, we'll come and do a shakeout run with you.
Actually, I'm probably not going to do a shakeout run this year because I'm staying in a hotel like an hour away, and I'm thinking it'd be better if I just do it around my hotel.
But you are going to be there this year, is that right?
Yeah, so that's because I did not get in. Like I had a qualifying time, did qualifying time, and I was nowhere close to making the cutoff. And I was very after many rejections. I did manage to get a charity entry through Last Call Foundation. Thank you very much, Last Call Foundation. And because the generosity of people I know, that page picked up $11,000 in 37 days, which is extraordinary.
Wow.
So I'm able to go because of that, and because I am running a marathon for time, though my training has not been going very well, so I'm not feeling very optimistic. At Revel Charleston, April 6th, which is 3 weeks away, less than 3 weeks away. I was about to say a swear word there. And then so Boston is going to give me 9 days after that. So I was like, okay, well, I want to do Boston to continue my streak. I love, being in town for the excitement. And, but so why don't I do something different? Usually what happens, I go there and I try to run for time and I bonk in a spectacular fashion. And I run a disappointing time. That happens and I'm like, yeah, let's do something different this year. So this year, my plan is to start in wave 4, start in the back. I'm not going to delay or impede anything. Okay. And basically see the reason why I want to do that. I want to see what time the cutoff time will be. It's 6 hours from the last person starts. It's usually not clear when you're running the race what that time is. So I want to be there at the end and see, when's that going to be? Is it going to be 11:26, 11:25? And then I'm going to catch up to people that I'm trying to help, and then maybe pace them, maybe give them some encouragement along the way. It's not a pace group. I'm more of an unofficial advisor, assuming that I'm in good enough physical condition after my marathon to do that. And then my goal is to finish roughly a little more better than 6 hours, after 5 o'clock on that day, which I've never done before. And so I'm just, a lot of it's curiosity. I've never run from wave 4. I've always run from wave 1 or wave 2. It's definitely different. The porta potties are cleaner for wave 1. There's toilet paper in the porta potties. I heard wave 4 is really horrible. So like really bad.
You're not selling it for us.
Yeah.
You have a great time. What you want to do is, you can do this now, is you do a search on the Boston Marathon entry list, see who's from Australia is going there. I think it's like 400 people, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we've got a big tour group with us, so there's about 40 or 50 just on that tour group.
I'm guessing it's Traveling Fit, right?
Correct.
That's the one.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the famous run, Traveling Fit. But yeah, you want so you'll be hanging at the hotel, getting to know each other, and then if you want, you can check the entry list, see if there's anyone you know. I'm sure you Australians, you know each other really well. So you probably know quite a few. Oh, I know her from Melbourne. I remember, I know her from, from Darwin, from Perth. I know them all, So you might want to connect with them, and you'll see on there. You can do a search and narrow it to everyone from Australia only. There's probably about 400 people, and that's one thing you can do. The other thing you want to do Sunday, it's up to you. I don't know if you might want to go to the Blessing of the Athletes church service at the Old North Church, which is right by the finish line. It's a great service. It's very musical, very moving. You might want to consider that. And then and then I don't know. Here's the thing. I don't know what you want to buy at the expo. I don't know what. It's more difficult for you to order it from Australia, obviously. Jacket. You want to get your jacket? Okay, they'll certainly have that. But I would get that right after you get your bib. Okay, expect a long line to check out. It's gonna be super crowded, like Berlin. It's gonna be like Berlin,
like Tokyo, like ASIC's store in Tokyo, 2.5 hour wait.
2023.
Yeah, that was for the shirt here, 2.5 hours.
Well, I think it'll be better than that. I think it won't be bad. So yeah, that's my advice for to do. Is there anything else? Other questions you have about Boston?
No, but we will be keeping an eye out for you and making sure we introduce ourselves to you in person when we come out. So yes,
absolutely. And one of the things about Boston was that the expo gear from Adidas is also available. Well, for me, it was available in Copley Square. So for you guys, no doubt Adidas will also have a store in the City Hall. And,
well, I hope they do. It's not confirmed, but you can only know by going there and seeing for yourself.
Yeah. So you can sometimes, which is a lot less crowded than what the expo is. So Robert, really appreciate the work you do. I just completed Tokyo, and it was just so much grace that you provide to people in respect of the cutoffs. We understand that a lot of people get stressed about that. And for you to unofficially be their advisor during the course of the event is just amazing. So I take my hat off to you for that work. And I know that there's a number of people very grateful for the fact that you do that. Just a big thanks and a shout out for you for the work. Now, before we go, we always ask our guests to do a fast 6. Now, I've changed this a little bit for you, and hopefully you'll be able to just answer these really, really quick. These are questions that I've made up that I have not made the group yet. All right. So I haven't seen these particular questions in the group, but I'm pretty certain that you'll be able to answer them very, very quickly. So the first one. I'm flying into Boston Sunday night at 11 p.m. Will I be able to make the expo before it closes?
No.
My return flight from Chicago is booked at 10:30 a.m. Is that enough time to run the marathon and catch the flight home?
That's the same day as the race on a Sunday?
Yes.
No. Let me think a second. Let me think about that. Let me think. If you're an elite, you might conceivably make it, but if you're an elite, that you'd have to have an award ceremony. You've agreed to be there. You probably have sponsorship commitments. So no, not if you're normal.
I've heard the bushes are provided instead of porta potties at Berlin. Is that true?
Bushes?
Yeah.
Trees.
Yeah,
Shrubs.
bushes, trees.
I've never heard of that. You've never used the big urinal trailer at Berlin, the massive Oktoberfest style urinal trailer. You could have a classroom in there in that urinal trailer.
All right. Number 4, I've quickly looked at the pictures in the Tokyo Runners handbook and was told by a friend that water bottles aren't allowed in the starting corral. Does that mean I can't take my 2-liter insulated water bottle with me?
You cannot.
With Sydney potentially becoming a major in 2025, will I get a star for finishing the Gold Coast Marathon in 2019?
No.
And I've heard from a friend, this is the last one, Robin, I'll put you out of your misery very soon. So I've heard from a friend who heard it from an uncle that when Sydney becomes the next major, you'll be provided a clip-on badge for those that have already got their 6-star medal. Robert, can you confirm this?
I cannot.
And once again,
it might be true, but I've never heard that. So.
And once again, I just did that for a bit of fun because I see so many questions that you get asked time and time again, and just the grace in which you answer it in every single time. Just you are so awesome at what you do. So and just thank you for that. So, all right. So before we finish up, I'm going to hand over to Tim. We always do a Tim's tip, and then we'll do a bit of a close down. So over to you, Tim.
Thanks, Tony. My tip this week is a simple one, and it's just about have fun and don't take your running too seriously. You've heard from Robert today. It's always about having a laugh. It's having some fun and just enjoying the run. It will actually lead to a longer time that you're in the part of your life where you're able to run and enjoy it. My experience is people who don't enjoy their running don't stay running for very long, and if they do, they become more obsessed about fast times and then get disappointed they don't get fast times and then overload their training and become injured. So just like what Robert's done, like Tara and I, what we constantly preach, what Tony constantly preaches, have fun when you run, enjoy the moment that you're in, and don't get too stressed by finishing times or anything else. At the end of the day, you get the same medal as everyone else. And in fact, if you take a bit longer and have a bit more fun, you get more value for the dollars you put into it. So that's my tip today.
Awesome. Great tip. So we're about to end. Tara, what's on next week?
Oh, it's up to me this time. All right. So, Tony, thanks for that. By the time our next episode is released, Tim and I will be doing our taper for Boston, which is fantastic because my hips this morning are like, thank you. On the next episode, we're actually going to be sharing our tapering tips and tricks. So we're going to help you get through the next race in the best form possible. As you know, a good taper is extremely important, and it will lead to a better outcome for your runs at the end as well. So, yeah, join us for the next episode.
Excellent. Thanks, Tara. And that wraps us up for tonight. Before we finish, but I have to thank you, Robert, for joining us tonight. We've had an absolute ball catching up with you today. You are an encyclopedia of knowledge. And as I said, grace and good humor always within that as well. So I know that Tim and Tara will hunt you down in Boston. They will find you. And
we'll be those fans that are like, oh, it's Robert.
No.
I don't know about the kissing stuff part, but
damn, I have to find something else to do with you.
But we hope that you've enjoyed spending some time with us here in Australia. And once again, full of gratitude and thank you so much. So as all of our regular listeners know, video of this episode available on Spotify and YouTube. Audio is on Apple and Amazon and most other popular podcast platforms. If you've liked the episode, please like and write a comment. and maybe send a shout out to Robert Wang and congratulate him on all the good work that he does within the World Marathon Majors Challenge group or any of the other groups that he's mentioned during the course of the show. I know that group that you've just started for the 6 hour cutoff Boston is going to be so well appreciated, because running that course last year without knowing that definitive cutoff is just made me incredibly anxious, because I had some real issues during Boston, but we got there by about 76 seconds, I think it worked out to be. So more than happy that I've got the medal, even though I didn't get one on the day, but that's another story altogether. So remember, everyone, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Flying Runner podcast. Until then, happy running.
Happy running.
Happy running.